The story follows Adonijah, whose name literally means eternity. She was born a princess daughter of the emperor and the late empress, Diana, who died giving birth to her. Before her death, Diana left her baby a mysterious magical kiss, though no one knew exactly what kind of power it carried. After losing his wife, the emperor went completely off the rails. He ordered everything she ever touched to be burned and destroyed. The only thing he spared was the baby, Adonijah. But instead of love, she got the royal cold shoulder. Her father ignored her, so the servants did the same, figuring, if even the emperor doesn't care, why should we? Even as a baby, Adonijah had strange experiences. She once wandered into a magical world where a voice called out to her. There, she found a book that showed her entire life, everything that would happen to her. Shocked, she read that one day she'd be accused of black magic, and her own father would lock her away in a tower forever. Every night, her father's icy stare haunted her dreams. The only warmth in her life came from Lillian, a kind-hearted servant who had once been her mother's friend. Lillian gave up her noble life just to stay and care for the lonely princess. Even as a toddler, Adonijah knew her life was headed for disaster. She couldn't fight back yet, but she understood she'd have to change her fate somehow. Her biggest obstacle? Her father, Emperor Cloud, a man so powerful he could wipe out an entire kingdom alone. And that's my dad, she thought bitterly. 3 years passed, and things brightened a little. More maids joined the palace staff, enchanted by Adonijah's sweetness and charm. But among them was one greedy maid who only cared about stealing treasures that once belonged to the late empress. When Adonijah asked what she was looking for, the maid brushed her off, assuming she was just some random gardener's kid, and told her to show her where the gold was. Adonijah, realizing the woman's intent, mischievously led her to fields of sunflowers and wheat instead. Then, pretending to be helpful, she innocently mentioned that there were still utensils decorated with gems left in the palace. The maid fell for it, thinking the little girl was her partner in crime. She started stuffing jewels into bags, and that's when Adonijah struck. She grabbed the jewelry first, and when the woman tried to attack her, the princess hurled all the decorations at her. The commotion brought the other maids running, who caught the thief red-handed. But Adonijah knew it wasn't just luck. In the book of her future, she'd seen this same maid try to rob and stab Lillian. By acting early, she'd saved her caretaker and secretly kept the jewels for herself, knowing she'd need them one day. Meanwhile, Emperor Cloud remained as cold as ever. When his assistant, Felix, reported the incident and mentioned that his daughter had bravely stopped a thief, the emperor didn't even flinch. Somewhere far away, a man sensed that the destiny of the entire empire was beginning to change and that its source was inside the palace. Adonijah realized she wasn't the main heroine of this story, just a side character. And when she turned 12, things would only get worse. She'd meet her half-sister Jeanette, a beautiful, elegant girl blessed with magic and possibly their father's love. Adonijah didn't want that future, the rejection, the exile, the pain. So before her 8th birthday, she started hoarding coins and jewels, planning to run away with Lillian one day. She even hid gems in kitchen utensils, though that sometimes left her covered in chocolate after snacking on sweets. One day, while washing her hands at a fountain, she caught her reflection, her mother's face, but her father's eyes. Maybe he hates me because I only got his looks, not his magic, she thought. She wandered into the forest to hide her treasures, scaring off a squirrel in the process. But when she returned later, she found the same squirrel digging up her stash. Panicking, she bribed it with a peanut and went deeper into the woods, where she discovered a strange underground vault filled with little golden cherubs. She bit one to check, yep, real gold. And that's when she ran straight into her father, Emperor Cloud himself. It was their first real meeting. The emperor froze, stunned by how much she looked like the late empress. Adonijah, on the other hand, was terrified. This wasn't supposed to happen until she was 8. Cloud's face gave away nothing, and even his aide Felix seemed nervous. Then, breaking the tension, the emperor casually commented that she was a bit chubby and tugged at her cheeks. Finally, he ordered Felix to prepare tea because, apparently, the mighty emperor had decided to have tea time with his daughter. Something sweet was served. Adonijah barely touched her dessert, too stunned by the man before her. Sitting right in front of her was the man who, according to the book of her fate, would one day hate her, accuse her of witchcraft, and lock her in a tower. Yet here he was, calmly sipping tea. Cloud watched his shy daughter in silence until she quietly confirmed she could speak. Felix tried to ease the tension by saying children were often shy and got kicked out so father and daughter could talk alone. Cloud commented on her name, Adonijah, eternity and immortality, worthy of a royal heir. He even admitted envy. Despite killing his tyrant brother to take the throne, his own name felt less noble. Remembering the late Empress Diana, who'd chosen the name, softened him. When he asked who taught her manners, she proudly said, Lillian. Cloud recalled the maid begging to raise the child and had agreed without thinking. Then came the tense question, do you know who I am? Adonijah froze. Felix had told her to say, Your Majesty, but she blurted, You're my father, expecting punishment. She panicked, but Cloud's eyes lit up with joy. Later, Felix returned her to the worried servants, announcing that the emperor wanted to see her again, shocking everyone. When Cloud summoned Lillian and Adonijah, he thanked the maid for raising his daughter, claiming royal duties had kept him away, but that Adonijah would now live by his side. Everyone rejoiced except Adonijah, who still suspected her father might be a demon in royal robes. Her life changed overnight. Daily tea with the emperor, luxurious treatment, and new clothes. Yet she clung to her secret plan to escape before turning 8, taking her saved coins and jewels. Cloud, meanwhile, grew intrigued by her. He noticed her love for shiny things and began enjoying their awkward, sweet tea times. For the first time, she dared to hope he might truly love her. Then came the trip to the lake. Dressed beautifully, she beamed when Cloud called her healthy and plump, taking it as a compliment, and even told him he looked handsome. He remained unreadable. They boarded a small boat, though Adonijah couldn't swim. As Cloud steered the boat with magic, she admired his radiant golden hair and wondered if her blue eyes matched his. Then she spotted a glowing lotus, reached for it, and fell into the water. Dragged down by weeds, she thought it was the end, until Cloud dove in and saved her, drying her instantly with magic. Calm but firm, he declared, Tomorrow, I'll teach her to swim. I won't let her be defenseless again. Later, Lillian explained that the glowing lotuses were magical traps, affecting only those without magic, making Adonijah the most vulnerable in the palace. That night, Cloud returned to the lake, where the lotuses formed an illusion of his late wife, Diana. For the first time, he admitted he no longer hated his daughter. The next morning, Adonijah awoke to chaos, a crowd of servants kneeling, newly assigned to her service. Even Felix knelt, pledging himself as her temporary personal guard. Little Adonijah dreams of someone with a familiar face, though she can't remember who it is. When she wakes up, she realizes she's being carried by Felix, who cheerfully tells her that His Majesty wants to have breakfast with her. Adonijah blinks in confusion. Why would the emperor himself want breakfast with her? And why doesn't he have guards around? Felix laughs, saying Claude needs none. His magic is enough. Then he adds that the emperor would love to be woken by his little princess. Adonijah nearly faints. Waking the emperor sounds like suicide. Still, she enters his grand chamber, filled with treasures and even a golden map. She spots Claude sleeping in a chair and notices a portrait of a man who looks just like the one who banished her in her dream. Mischievously, she pinches his cheeks, but when he stirs, she panics and hums a lullaby somehow. It puts him back to sleep. Later, Claude wakes with slightly red cheeks, and Adonijah awkwardly tries to talk about the palace. He smiles faintly and lets her explore freely. Felix then announces a nobleman's arrival, and before Adonijah leaves, Claude casually tells her to have breakfast with him every morning to her surprise. Exploring the palace, Adonijah searches for a portrait of her mother, Diana, but finds only unfamiliar faces. Finally, she discovers a burned painting bearing her mother's name. Nearby, nobles gossip cruelly about her lack of magic and her mother's lowly background. Before they can mock further, Claude appears, his icy glare silencing them. He orders that Diana's name never be spoken again. Hidden, Athanasia realizes how deeply her mother's memory pains him. That night, she stares at the ruined painting, hums her lullaby, and falls asleep. The next morning, she joins Claude for breakfast again, trying to appear confident. He mostly listens in silence. When she tastes his tea and says, "It tastes like flowers blooming in my mouth," Claude freezes. Those were Diana's exact words. He quickly changes the subject, and Athanasia realizes she's struck a nerve. Heartbroken, she later burns her drawings of her mother. Meanwhile, Athanasia overhears Felix and Lillian discussing, showing her Claude's memories of Diana. Frightened, she begs them not to, fearing her father will hate her. Felix assures her Claude never hated her or Diana, showing her the palace's magic barrier which only she and Diana can freely pass. That night, Claude sits alone with the restored drawings. When Athanasia visits, saying she missed him, he hugs her and murmurs, "You're becoming bold, just like your mother." He teases her to sing the lullaby again, this time while he's awake. As she sings, Claude's magic fills the room with warmth and light, revealing memories of Diana smiling. Father and daughter watch together, their hearts softening. When the song ends, they drift to sleep side by side, surrounded by gentle light and long-forgotten peace. The emperor wished to assign Princess Athanasia a study partner, since her powers still hadn't awakened. The duke wasted no time and offered his son Smart, 3 years older, and apparently everyone's favorite overachiever. But in Athanasia's dreams, that same guy had introduced another girl as the future heir to the throne and used her to climb the royal ladder. Now, in the present, he supposedly liked that same girl too. Athanasia was convinced he just wanted to cozy up to her for power. Before anyone could say more, she cut them off. Yes, she knew the duke's son was talented, well-read, and probably thought he was some kind of prodigy. But so what? She'd already studied everything he had alone. She didn't want foolish friends. No one could match her in studies. The only thing he had over her was magic, which, to her, was an unfair advantage. They dropped the topic for another day. In Aeolus, there was a magical planetarium that measured how much magic someone had. The faster it spun, the stronger the person. When Athanasia tried it, though, it didn't move at all. Her father was powerful. Her mother had danced with magic in every motion, so how could she have none? 2 years passed. While her maid bought fruit in the market, people gossiped about how much the duke adored his daughter. He'd even built her a private library. Everyone assumed Athanasia would inherit the throne. Then a mysterious man appeared. He noticed something strange. The maid wasn't supposed to be alive. Her fate had been rewritten. Soon after, that annoying duke showed up again. 2 years hadn't changed him much. He worried that the princess still had no classmate and said he knew the perfect one, a girl his own age, whom he had taught personally. Athanasia's heart sank. It was the same girl from her dreams, the one destined to take her place. The newcomer was brilliant, especially in law. The plan was simple: get close to the princess, meet her father, and rise in power. But Athanasia didn't need law lessons. She could recite the whole code by heart. She was a true scholar, and she wanted classmates who were just as sharp. To make her point, she handed the duke a book in a foreign language, one she had translated herself. "I don't want foolish friends," she whispered. Before heading to the garden, her father gifted her a book she'd long desired, written by a nameless magician and filled with ancient spells. He warned her that it contained a powerful enchantment, one that might awaken her magic. He wasn't sure it would work, but it was worth trying. The moment she opened it, the book began to move. And suddenly, she saw the same mysterious man again. He had finally found her, the girl who could control destiny itself. But Athanasia was still just a child, so naturally, she assumed he was mistaken. Then, out of nowhere, Felix stepped forward and, with one swift motion, the man pushed him back using magic. Before leaving, the man gave him a warning. "Never finish that spell. It's too dangerous." After that, Felix remembered nothing. Still curious, he told the emperor that maybe the princess should have a friend her own age. The poor girl lived surrounded by adults and had no one to talk to. She must have been lonely. Meanwhile, Athanasia wasn't exactly impressed by the adults around her. In her mind, they were so useless they couldn't even control one child. Every morning, she sat for tea like royalty, the table overflowing with cakes. And now, finally, she was allowed to eat chocolate. Except the ones she'd hidden in the kitchen had mysteriously disappeared. Her father, taking Felix's advice, asked gently if she wanted a friend her age. If she said yes, he'd find one. But she shook her head. "I already have friends and cakes. That's enough. I just want peace until I turn 18. Still, deep down, Athanasia knew she'd need to master magic if she wanted to change her destiny. So, ignoring the mysterious man's warning, she tried the spell again. The book's chains rattled and broke open. Suddenly, the same man appeared, staring right at her. "Are those eyes from the Imperial family?" he asked. People with her jewel-like eyes were said to have died out 400 years ago. Her father was the current emperor, but those eyes were supposed to belong only to the ancient bloodline. The legend said that people with eyes like hers could wield immense power, yet she had none. So how had she managed to twist the threads of fate itself? The man decided she was too dangerous to know the truth and cast a spell to put her to sleep. But even as her consciousness faded, Athanasia refused to give up. He was about to end her life when a cloud appeared out of nowhere and swept her away. Terrified, she tried to cast a spell, and to her shock, a shimmering shield formed in front of her. For the first time, she smiled, thrilled by the spark of power. But her vision blurred, the world faded, and the last thing she saw was her father's boots dripping with blood. End of episode. Subscribe for more episodes.